This is a Canon 1DX Mark III. Here in late 2020, it is Canon's flagship DSLR and one of the best choices for professional sports photographers. But does this newer and thus better camera actually take better pictures? Let's gear up and let's find out. Hey there, what is up you guys? I am Jerry Lai and welcome back to my sports photography channel. If this is your first time here and you don't know me, I am currently the Director of Content and Photography at USA Today Sports, and I have been fortunate enough to have worked as a professional photojournalist and editor for the past 16 years. And on this channel, I want to help you become a better sports photographer. If you think that I can help you out, definitely hit that like button and consider subscribing. Photographers are all gearheads. We are drawn to the latest and greatest shiny pieces of new technology. So today, I want to talk about whether or not these newer and quote-unquote better cameras actually take superior photos compared to the older and quote-unquote less capable cameras. Yes, of course they do, but also no, they don't. So let me explain these contradictory responses. This is the very first Pro SLR that I used. It's a Canon 1D and the very similar 1DS. The Canon 1D came out in 2001 and launched with a price tag of $6,500 US. It was a revolutionary camera at the time, providing users with a 4 megapixel file that shot 8 frames per second. And with 45 autofocus points, it yielded an incredibly fast and accurate system that shot tack-sharp photos with high-grade lenses. 6 generations of the 1D series later, we now arrive at the Canon 1DX Mark III. Priced at an identical $6,500 US, this beast is now up to providing users with a file size of 20 megapixels at 16 frames per second. And now with up to 191 autofocus points, it is really hard to miss a shot that's not due to user error. So very clearly on paper, the 1DX Mark III blows the original 1D out of the water with 5 times the file size and double the frames per second. But did these vastly improved specs actually mean that I was taking better photos? Again, the short answer is yes. Without a doubt, as sensor technology improved, I was able to produce cleaner files at high ISO. Thus, I was able to shoot with higher shutter speeds and to reduce motion blur. In those early days, I would actually often shoot sports at 1/640th of a second, just so that I wouldn't pump the ISO above 800. Because while shooting above ISO 800 is common these days, if you did that back then on a 1D or a 1D Mark II, your file got very grainy and very noisy in a hurry. The increased megapixel offering of the new cameras also allows me much more cropping leeway than before. Back in the mid-2000s, it was very difficult to crop a photo more than half the frame and still be usable. I'd have to try to fill the frame as much as possible in camera. Now it's not uncommon for me to do a very tight crop, taking out the legs or removing distractions from a frame. But the long answer to the original question, a resounding N-O, no. The better camera didn't make me a better photographer. No, it didn't. The better camera also didn't help me think about where to position myself on the field. The better camera didn't help me think about the situations to help me know what and where I should be pointing the camera. And the better camera doesn't help me locate the action through the viewfinder to mash the AF button and press the shutter. All the decision making and all the know-how and the reflex was all on me. To dive into some examples of what I'm talking about, let's take a look at these similar shots that I took in the mid-2000s with either a Canon 1D or 1D Mark II, and then compare them to more recent photos that I shot with a Canon 1DX or newer. In this play at the plate from 2006, you'll see that I nailed the sports action trifecta. There are 2 players with faces and the ball. But look closely and you'll see some motion blur on the runner in their fingers and the legs. And that's because I had to shoot this at 1/640th of a second to prevent the file from getting too grainy with high ISO. Now check out this play from 2018. As far as photo content, it's the same. It's a great play at the plate, and I have the sports action photo trifecta. The difference is with a newer camera, I was able to shoot at 1/2500th of a second, which froze all the action, as well as allows me for tighter crops if I want. Now here's another sample. In 2005, I photographed this walk-off victory at a White Sox game. Obviously, I had to know who hit the walk-off and try to follow the player who hit the ball and capture the emotion of the event. But if you look very closely at the JPEG, you'll see it's a little bit grainy, more than a little bit grainy. And that's from both the noise and the tight crop. Now fast forward to 2016, shot with a Canon 1Dx, you'll see a similar game-ending celebration, but it's a much, much cleaner file despite a tight crop as well. The point of these examples is this. My ability to capture similar moments 10, 15 years apart has been the same. The difference, however, is the picture quality has vastly improved because of newer gear, but my ability to capture these moments has remained the same. Now that said, am I a better photographer today than I was in the mid-2000s? Without question. How I really wish I could go back in time and do some of the events back then with the knowledge that I have now. I'll be the first to admit, I really lucked into some of the shots I got back in the day, and I wonder about the shots that I could have, or maybe should have made, had I been better with my thought process and positioning back then. And that really is the goal of the channel, to help you use your mind so that you can get the most out of your gear to become a better sports photographer. And I know I've said it before, but I'll have to say it again, even though it sounds cliche. The better gear will not, I repeat, will not make you the better photographer. It's just a useful tool that'll help you get the job done. Anyways, that is all for me today. I hope that you really enjoyed this video, and if you did, definitely hit that like button and consider subscribing. Doing so helps both YouTube and myself know that this video was worth making and watching and sharing with others. Be sure to also hit that notification bell so that you can be alerted as to when new content drops. I try to come out with new content every 2 to 4 weeks or so you definitely don't want to miss out. Thanks again for stopping by today. Stay safe, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye.